All right, Middlecoff, Weekend Mailbag is here. Another
Let's
one.
get it on, baby. Let's do it.
And another one. And another one. It's very easy to submit. You just go on iTunes and you leave us a review. And in the review, you leave a question. That's how you get in the mailbag.
You want to watch it? It's on YouTube as well. Do it.
You might be watching this. Okay, here we go. Mailbag. Diving in. This is from VGSKHY. Vigshi. Wish I was around for the radio show. ... Hey, fellas, love the podcast. Promo code HAM10 for my East purchase. Question with the mailbag. With Bill re-signing Cam Newton and absolutely reloading in free agency, I can't see how the Jimmy G trade makes sense now. I know Cam is not the best passer, but given New England's red zone efficiency with him and a renewed defense with opt-outs coming back, I see them as very difficult to beat. Also, if that is a damper to the Niners' hopes of packing Jimmy's bags, what are their options other than sending him to Houston? Obviously, this question before, as we discussed on the last podcast, Houston is on pause for the moment, obviously. But I still think New England is a destination for Jimmy, potentially. I don't think Cam changes that much.
Complete agreement. I think the Belichick would take him yesterday if he was offered Jimmy Garoppolo. I also think he might ask Jimmy Garoppolo to take a little pay cut. I don't
Jimmy
know if
would take it, I think.
You'd think. Maybe to it might not be to 5, but it'd probably be 15 maybe like a 12 with some incentives to hit 20 or something.
Yeah, I mean, look, Jimmy's contract's coming up, so it is in his best interest to have as good a year as he could possibly have, to be a place that wants him, right? So you do take a pay cut, but you know that Bill wants you, so if things go well, you'll get a contract extension.
And they got players to throw to, right?
And they got players to throw to. Kendrick Bourne.
Someone DM'd me and asked if they thought that, remember, because Matt Stafford said the one place he didn't want to go was New England.
Yeah.
If he would have known everything was coming, would he have gone there? Or do you think this inspired Bill? I was like, well, no, I think Patricia got a job there. He hates Patricia, 1. And 2, I don't think Belichick is Belichick did this because he had the most money, and if you think about it, he didn't have to bid against people, right? This free agency, there were 4 or 5 teams with a lot of money. No one really wants to go to the Jets. The Colts were not. I saw someone say the Colts are worried bigger picture. They're going to extend guys. They weren't into overpaying guys. The Jags are just trying to figure out what they're trying to do. Who was Bill bidding against for all these players? I think in a normal year, he benefited from just his team had set up. He was going to have cap space. The cap had come down, which was out of his control, and he was able to buy guys for relatively cheap. I'd say Matt Judon in a typical year with everyone cap space, instead of having to give him 35 guaranteed, maybe that number's 48, and Bill's out. Bill got to buy guys for, he's like, yeah, that's probably more than I want, but I'm not in a bidding process.
Yeah. The other thing was,
I think he was comfortable with that.
Aguilar, Bourne, these are not players whose own teams their teams wanted to re-sign them but couldn't.
Yeah.
So it eliminated
Johnny
those.
Smith, they weren't going to re-sign.
Yeah.
Judon's not going to re-sign.
Obviously,
Hunter Henry was not going to get re-signed.
Yep. So, I would say also, to the question you referenced, I think Stafford wants to be in the warmth. I think him and McVay met in Cabo. I think he wants to be in LA. I think he wants to play for Sean McVay. Who could blame him? That team's really good as well.
I lived in California 34 of my 36 years of life. It's changed a lot recently because, and it's probably always been like this, but really we don't have it's kind of just becoming the haves and the have-nots. It is by far the best state to live in if you're really rich. And to Matt Stafford, it's a no-brainer. If you have unlimited money, this is a place to be. If you're just Mir Haberman, just got to scrape by.
All right, next up. This is from Gorgeous B82. Lazy analysis. Love the show. I'm a new listener. 1 year. Ham is my weekly must-listen sports pod. That said, I hope you'll address the lazy analysis of Trey Lance. A Jordan Love comp? Really? Lance comes from a coaching staff that produced Josh Allen, Carson Wentz, 2 players with MVP-caliber seasons on rookie contracts. System fit matters more than college stats. Example, Mahomes, Lamar. Lance fits the Niners' offense, has already learned the skills necessary to run a pro style, not just a fullback, John, but calling protections at a line, identifying the defense, understanding the timing of route progressions relative to your dropbacks. Also, Kyle Shanahan has the most QB-friendly offense in football. Look at Jimmy G's 2019 advanced metrics. Lance at 12 for the Niners would be considered a steal. If they don't trade up, steps off soapbox. Keep it going. The intro music is clutch. Oh, shout out to Bonafide. The Trey Lance.
Didn't the head coach go to Wyoming? Did the offensive coordinator take over?
Yeah,
I don't know my North Dakota State information.
The head coach that signed him signed Carson went to Wyoming, and I'm pretty sure that they had a year with Carson. That coordinator went with him. So Matt Entz, I think, is the head coach at North Dakota. I don't think he was. I think he might have been on the previous staff. I'm not sure. I will check that right now.
Because you did a Wyoming game the last couple of years, right?
Yeah, I did one
and
last year.
Their coach was a North Dakota State guy.
Yeah. So no, the guy who took over. Oh yeah, the guy who took over was the DC linebacker coach at North Dakota State, Matt Entz, but he was not the offensive coordinator.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, I think what this guy has going for him, where my Jordan Love comp, because I'm sure I think I said that, was based on like Carson and like Trey Lance. Jordan Love fits the bill of like big time physical tools, big, fast, huge arm. Now Carson had weird success because he had been hurt. Trey had just the 1 year and it was successful, no picks. My issue with him when talking about a project like Jordan Love is the hitchy motion. And it's like people need to kind of remake his motion. A little bit like Rodgers. When the Packers got Rodgers, he had the, holding the ball famously above his head.
Yeah.
And it looked weird. Do you know what he doesn't do anymore? Or he never did in the pros? That. Because they worked with him, they coached him up, and they changed him, and then his talent kind of arose. So when I say a project, like, it doesn't mean that he can't become a really good player. I think the Chiefs would tell you that we viewed Patrick Mahomes as a project. Carson Palmer was a project. He didn't start as a rookie. Like, being a project used to be a good thing. Every minor league baseball player, right beside, I don't know, really nobody, Bryce Harper maybe, is a project. Number 1 overall picks. Like, most draft picks, I think a lot of draft picks, just because if you're like Chase Young, he's probably not a bad example. But most guys that get drafted in the first round, I think most of their coaches would be like, yeah, we got a lot to work on, man. They just have at a lineman or linebacker, you just have to play. But like, Henry Ruggs from Alabama, I bet Gruden will say, fuck, this is going to take us a while, right? That's, because I started thinking, well, I bet the Cowboys don't say that about CeeDee
Better
Lamb.
not take a while.
It shouldn't. But when I say a while, I just mean the coach says he just has a lot to improve on.
Yeah.
At quarterback, just sometimes, Mel Kiper told us, and I've heard this around the NFL too, I don't think it's crazy. It's not. This guy's going to go probably in the top 10. Like, he's not going to be there.
No lower than 12.
So I just mean a project, and it gets complicated because usually when you get drafted that high now, we don't sit guys anymore.
Yeah.
Really, the only reason the Dolphins could call off the Dogs was because the guy was hurt. I guess the Chargers attempted to, but they were getting destroyed. Remember, after week 1, Tyrod was kind of bad, and they barely beat the Bengals, and everyone's like, what are we doing? You know where I stand. I'm adamant. What the hell are we waiting for?
I do think. Sorry.
I just play the quarterback from day one.
If this guy's not ready to play day one, he's the one that makes the most sense if Jimmy Garoppolo's still your quarterback.
Yeah. To me, this guy ideally makes sense with the Steelers, with Tampa, with teams that have really old quarterbacks.
Yeah.
I think he would make some sense probably in Atlanta. They were drafting really high, but Matt Ryan, Arthur Smith had a lot of success with Ryan Tannehill. I actually think Ryan Tannehill is probably a decent comp for this guy. Pretty big arm, big time athlete, big.
Had not played
6'4".
a lot of. Trey Lance.
Yeah, I think he was only like a 2-year starter or something.
Tannehill was a receiver when he got to A&M.
Came in, yeah.
All right, next up. By the way, I think Dave Winfield's the guy that went straight to the big leagues. Doesn't happen. Coming up.
Is that a fair statement though? Every player drafted in Major League Baseball is a project?
Yes. It takes forever.
Yeah.
How fucked are the Cowboys? More golf talk. What sport would you want to be the third best player in? Do you see MLB taking over NBA number 2 slot in Major League Sport rankings in the U.S.? So number 1, Cowboys are in trouble if you're trying to win a championship. I think more so it's about the coach. Let's rattle through these. And I want the third question I really want to get to. More golf talk. No problem. Masters is coming.
Yeah.
Any response to those two before I move on?
I think the Cowboys offense, if Dak's healthy, could be really, really good. It's just going to be a question on their defense. They hired Dan Quinn, who, does Dan Quinn know he's doing a defense? We watched the Falcons. They weren't very good on defense. I'm excited to watch, not excited. Not really, actually. Well, keep an eye on the Sony Open.
Do you see MLB taking over NBA, the number 2 slot in Major League Sport rankings in the U.S.? I do not.
Are we sure NBA is number 2 right now?
Well, I think it's number 2 in just the amount of random conversation it gets. You could argue Major League Baseball does just fantastic. I think baseball's actually in a good place too. I think they do good numbers locally, as you've predicted, and as we've discussed. I think it'll be big for them to have bodies and seats. People should be going to baseball games this year in the summer, especially. But I think one thing the NBA does really well is just their star players are just big deal. And they sell shoes very efficiently.
Facts.
You got
to wear shoes.
Now, here we go. What sport would you want to be the third best player in? I would like a little more context on this question, but it's a great question. What sport would you want to be the third best player in?
Well, financially, it's without a question the NBA, right? I mean, look, we've seen the Warriors, their big 3, max. Look at the Nets, big 3, max. The Heat, big 3, max. The Celtics, big 3, max. Like, I can be a Hall of Fame type player and get a max contract. It's no-brainer NBA.
Yeah, I also think in terms of the way, I think part of this question might be about like just how big of a star are you if you're the third best player in a particular sport. I think if you're the third best player in the NFL, you are basically as big a star, almost as big a star as the biggest player in the NFL. Now, if the biggest star is Brady or Mahomes, you're not going to be as big a star as Mahomes.
He meant third biggest star. I thought he meant on a team.
No. What sport would you want to be the third best player in?
Yeah, you're right. I was thinking about it wrong. I thought he meant like third best player. No, he meant in the league. I got you. I was
CT
wrong.
West is who this question's from, by the way. You know what I mean? Like in football, if we're just talking about stardom, third biggest star in football is just as big a star. Now, you could argue in basketball it's the same way. Like basketball, I don't even know.
Who would you say is the third biggest star in the NFL? It'd be if Brady's one, it'd either be Rodgers or Mahomes. So yeah, it's fucking massive.
It's those 3, yeah.
In the NBA, you'd go LeBron.
Right.
LeBron's
KD,
one.
Steph, Harden, some variation of those.
I'd say the NBA and the NFL parallel each other pretty closely there. Yeah. I would choose one of those 2 over baseball right now.
Yeah, I'd probably choose. I mean, basketball, just career longevity too. But if you're the third best player, it means you're probably a quarterback. That sounds fun.
Yeah.
Got a good old line. Salandaka 28. Salandaka 28. Great show, guys. Been listening since the first go-around. Look forward to it every early morning car drives to the office. Big Raider fan here, and I've defended my team in car for a while, but my patience running thin. I'm all aboard the Russ Raiders train. Realistically, what percentage chance would you guys say it has to happen? If not, could you see them loading up their defense and trading for a proven star, possible Danielle Hunter of the Vikings? Keep up the great work. So percentage on Russ to the Raiders.
Well, it feels the only remaining possibility based on his list. Again, the lists can change. But based on his list, the only remaining possibility, I would say I texted someone that would have a decent idea, and he thought it still felt really unlikely from the Raiders standpoint. It's the only one. If you just base it on, we know for a fact. Did you see that Ryan Pace and, of course, John Schneider loves a good blue chip pro day? They ran into each other at North Dakota State pro day.
Well, somebody DM'd us that they had a meal together, right?
Yeah, so they see each other at the pro day, then they have the meal together. Obviously, Ryan Pace wants to talk to him, offers him a half of Chicago. And we said the whole time there was nothing he could offer him. My take on it, Guy, is that I think Ryan Pace is pretty crazy for kind of promoting how aggressive they are, because ultimately you'd be like, Well, you offer 2 starters. It's like, well, it's probably Akeem Hicks, Roquan Smith, or Khalil Mack. Those guys are going to be on your team next year. If I was one of those guys, like, screw you. Even if from the outside, of course, you would offer one of those guys. It's just not ideal when you never were going to get them. Pete Carroll needs a quarterback. And that was one of the things. Like, you don't have a quarterback to offer me. So I mean, the Raiders, if John Gruden wanted it to happen, I do think they could get pretty aggressive to make them think twice about it. Someone said, or maybe I read, that ultimately Pete Carroll said no to the Bears. Obviously, it's Pete's choice. Yeah. He's the boss.
Yeah.
He's like, who's going to be my quarterback?
Right.
Khalil Mack can't play quarterback. Can Roquan Smith play Wildcat? Like, what am I doing here?
The other question is, do the Seahawks really? I mean, I think someone else actually asked us about Russ, maybe. So if that's the case, I try not to read the questions through all the way first because I want to react to them. But it's one thing for the Seahawks to be open to receiving phone calls in March. It's another thing for them to actually trade him. I think part of the psychology from Pete could be, yeah, okay, let's let them play. Let's let this thing just play out for a couple of months. And in the end, instead of shutting it down right away and slamming the door in Russ's face and making him feel like we're holding him hostage, we'll pretend, we'll take the calls and we'll listen to people. And Russ can go around like being one of the big off-season storylines, and he'll get the star treatment because of it. And his name will be just constantly talked about, and people will, we'll feed that beast. And in the end, we'll just let the thing fizzle out. No one will offer us enough. We don't really want to trade him anyway. And, by November, we'll forget that this thing ever happened. I could see that being their approach. Like, yeah, we'll answer phone calls. Why wouldn't we? But come on, we're not. Let's just let him have his fun. It's March. None of this matters right now.
None of it.
Could you see the Raiders trading for a proven defensive star? Yeah. We've been talking about it for a week.
Yeah. I bet where they're pissed is they were like the 3 defensive stars that have been traded. I mean, they were part of trading one, but the Khalil Mack, Jamal Adams, Jalen Ramsey. If that individual right now was unhappy, like the way Diggs was last year, it was like Diggs probably gonna get traded. But that guy was a defensive guy. I think he would be a borderline lock to be a Raider, wouldn't you?
Yeah. Are there any defensive guys that are angry right now?
No. I mean, everyone seems kind of happy. If Jamal Adams was the guy bitching and moaning right now and hadn't been traded, I would be like, the Raiders are going to take Gus Bradley.
Yeah.
I mean, the Raiders tried to get Jalen Ramsey.
This is from Ty M. Johnson. Mailbag question. Lifelong Seahawks fan here. I'll admit Russell's a bit of a character, but I'll be honest, I've never cared because his play's been throughout. That being said, over the last 2-3 years, he's consistently become more Hollywood as someone from the Pacific Northwest. That isn't what our fan base loves to see in our culture. Like Pete, we want some dogs. I'm convinced that it all started when Sierra, said it right this time, became a bigger influence in his life. I would give 2 or 3 first-round draft picks for second contract, freshly divorced. I would give 2 or 3 first-round picks for second contract, freshly divorced Russell Wilson back. Your thoughts?
Well,
yeah, I think a woman can't have a mass. Of course, relationships can change people dramatically.
Well, yeah. I mean, historically, they have had massive moments on both ways, men and women. I think that he ain't changing. Money and fame only makes it worse. She's not going away. They have multiple children. I mean, I follow her on Instagram. I'm pretty sure she's pregnant right now with another one coming. I mean, they've produced several kids. They feel happily in love. You read the GQ article. They basically hold each other's hands when they cut each other's toenails. I mean, it's kind of weird. Honestly, it feels unrealistic and maybe completely fake, but maybe that's what he likes. I'm torn. Like, is he fake or is he just him? And I think that's the debate. Like, the Russell Wilson debate is not like where he ranks in the hierarchy. Like, coming up next on Mad Dog and Francesa, where Russell Wilson is he a top 10 quarterback? Honestly, if you talk to anyone in sports, it's like, is this guy real or is he fake? And that to me is the Russell Wilson debate right now. Because I think we all acknowledge unreal player. What the fuck is his deal? Like, that is his debate. What the fuck is his deal?
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's what I mentioned it the other day.
I could believe both sides. He's a weirdo, or he's just completely morphed into a caricature.
Sure, but part of it doesn't matter ultimately because whichever it is, he from what I've heard, having talked to, I mentioned this the other day, I just talked to somebody who played with him. He's just not an easy guy to connect with. So whether it's real or not, people just don't, either way, the effect is the same on a locker room, apparently. So.
Yeah, I have a source that, a little hearsay, but it was in the loop of what's going on in Seattle. I don't think he's loved in there, right? Coaches, teammates. It's just, think about in the NFL, when most people show up to work back in normal times, you wear semi-normal clothes, depending on what your job is. But I'd say minimum jeans, shirt, whatever. In the NFL, you literally just kind of show up in sweatpants early in the morning. You eat meals together. That's the other thing. In offices, people eat by themselves or whatever. In football, you have to kind of eat with your teammates. You're all kind of surrounded. You share lockers and showers together. You spend a lot of time together. I think it's a little awkward in there for him.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. He's so good that awkwardness never gets that weird, right?
Again, and you're not on bus trips all, this, you're not.
Yeah, it's not baseball. Yeah. No.
I'll say it again. The response I got when I asked, like, what's his deal? The response was, he's not a bad guy. I don't know if it's hard to connect with. So
you see, I don't think that's the thing with the Russell debate. Weird guy, non-weird guy. Just that's what he is. No one acts like it's a little Tebow-ish. Like everyone acknowledges, like, I think he's a really good guy. I think he's a nice person. I think if you fell in front of him, he'd help you up. Like I think he's a good character person. Because that's the thing in the NFL, guy.
That's the standard.
But there are some bad people. Like it's a violent game.
Bad person's never helped anyone up off the sidewalk. Come stumbling out of a dry cleaner.
True.
Step over him.
Yeah, I went to hit balls. I played a little golf yesterday in Napa, and I hit some range balls. I got a grass range, and I kind of moved over, like, it breaks up the range into slots. Well, no one was on the slot, so I had it all to myself. So I wanted to get a good piece of grass, so I moved this thing over, and I kind of backpedaled back because I moved the rope back a little bit where I wanted to go. It caught onto my shoe. Somehow my other foot got tangled. I flipped back like this. I hit my back so hard. I looked around. There ain't a soul around. I'm like, that's one of the most embarrassing things. And as I'm falling, my golf cleat rakes one leg. I got this huge red mark up my left shin. And I'm just absolute embarrassment, but no one saw. I tumbled. Hasn't happened to me in years. I hit it hard too. Thank God it was grass.
Thank goodness. It's funny how you can be embarrassed without a soul around. It's just.
Yeah, I hit hard.
Next up from Barry McCockiner, the internet legend. Question for the pod: would Lamella have been the number one?
What's his name?
Barry McCockiner. Isn't that like the fake Twitter guy?
Yeah, Barry McCockiner.
On IG, isn't it? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Barry's big on the internet. This is Barry. This is Barry McCockiner 1.
Oh God.
Question for the pod: would LaMelo Ball have been the number one pick if he'd been allowed to play in the NCAA? If he had played in the NCAA? Yeah, I think he
probably
would have.
Better than me. You think he would have?
I think so.
Well, if he would have looked like this, fuck yeah.
Yeah, If he had played in the NCAA, he probably would have played a lot more. Would have played maybe in an offense. Would have played for a coach that people know. He would have gone to a big school. So yeah, I think he would have been the number one pick.
The Timberwolves, though, had just traded for Cat's buddy, D'Angelo Russell, who needs the ball a lot and is basically their point guard.
That's true. So they drafted Anthony Edwards. I'm just saying, like, he would have been, I think, the number one player. If he had played NCAA basketball, he would have looked something like this, and he would have just been the number one prospect. Anthony Edwards was such a projection. Everybody in this last draft was. This next draft.
Well, do you
was
remember
so much
watching
better than this last
Lonzo?
draft.
You remember watching Lonzo at UCLA? People were like, yeah, he's pretty good, and he makes his teammates better, and the team wasn't that good, and they were like pretty solid. But it wasn't like eye-opening, like, oh my God, you got to have this guy. I remember thinking, like, this guy's really gonna go 2 in the draft. You watch Lamella, you go, geez, Louise.
Yeah.
It would have been hard for him not to. Where was he going to go? Assuming UCLA.
Well, once upon a time, but then LiAngelo wasn't at UCLA anymore. LiAngelo left.
Yeah, LaMelo feels like he would have ended up at like a rando big program though, like like a Maryland or just something like, whoa, I didn't, just something that doesn't even feel quite right.
See, I wouldn't have been
Penn,
shocked if Penn State.
Texas, maybe.
I wouldn't have been shocked
I
if
can
it's
see
like,
Shaka.
I'm going to UCSB. I'm going to make UCSB. Like, I'm just going to I'm going to stay down here in Southern California. I'm going to, UC, LA. What's the LA State school?
Yeah, I mean Northridge, Irvine,
Yeah,
Long
one of
Beach
those.
State,
Like, I'm just
like that.
something like that.
I'm going to Long Beach State.
Yeah, wouldn't shock me. Loyola Marymount, maybe not that, but
because they could make the tournament with them.
somebody
right?
would just be like, "Yeah, you guys, program's yours, Lamella." I mean,
Or
they do
you
that
know what
major-
actually would have made some sense? Like I'm saying, I'm going to go to San Diego State.
San Diego State.
I can see him at San Diego
That's a
State,
pretty-
kind of rebels.
I mean,
I know. But what are they going to say? No to him?
Well, no, of course you wouldn't say no. Maybe a Bulldog. Maybe it could have been a Fresno State Bulldog. This is Creative Chris coming from 3 and Out. My name is Christopher, and I'm a young listener, 22 years old. I appreciate that you just volunteers the demographic. Like, I'm a young listener, 22 years old.
That's what we like.
I came over from your 3 and Out podcast on Colin's podcast, and I have to say I'm impressed. Keep it up. Your interactions with listeners like me are much appreciated. So good job, Middlecoff. You brought us a listener.
No, I mention our podcast all the time.
Wasn't even a question, actually, Chris. We just, we'll read compliments. Thanks, Chris. Good to have you, man. Tell us more. DM us more. We want to know more about the 22-year-old listener. We need some more information.
No cap.
No cap. And the last thing I had was just this wasn't actually a mailbag question. I just had it loaded up here. This was the tweet about what Kyle Long had to say about the Raiders. We don't need to revisit that.
That's me, guy. That's me.
I didn't do that on purpose. On purpose. And then I had to.
Have a great weekend.
Last thing,
What were
John,
you gonna
real
say?
quick.
Sorry.
I had to I got some DMs in the IG that I didn't see until the other day. So maybe we'll, again, IG DMs, we can try and work some of those in. But as always, iTunes it up. People give us a review, a question there, and thanks for all your support as always.
Godspeed, people.
Later.